Kia ora, no mai haere mai. Hello and welcome. This is Deborah McMahon talking astrology with you. And today we're talking about the astrological forecast for the week starting 27 June 2022. Let's dive straight in because the week will be here and then gone before we know it. This week, the sun will transit between 4 and 11 degrees of Cancer. So if that corresponds to the position of the sun in your natal chart, happy birthday to you, Cancer. And if you know someone having a birthday this week, you can send this video off to them as a little entertainment by clicking the share button below. The moon moves through about a quarter of the zodiac in a week. This week, she transits through Gemini, Cancer, and Leo. And the new moon occurs on Wednesday at 7 degrees and 22 arc minutes of Cancer. We will talk more of the new moon very soon. These are the key aspects that I've picked out this week. We will start the week with 3 planets in dignity, Mercury, Mars, and Saturn. On Tuesday, a dignified Mars sextiles a dignified Saturn at 24 degrees of Aries and Aquarius. The next day, the sun moves into a square with Jupiter, starting a small cascade of events involving Jupiter at 7 degrees of Aries. Within a couple of hours, the moon catches up with the sun, forming this year's Cancer new moon at 7 degrees and in tight square with Jupiter in Aries. And then within an hour, Venus in Gemini perfects her sextile with Jupiter. By Saturday, a dignified Mars is in the latter degrees of Aries, bringing it into square aspect with Pluto in Capricorn at 27 degrees. Later that same day, a dignified Mercury in Gemini perfects a trine with dignified Saturn at 24 degrees of Aquarius. So this is set in New Zealand Standard Time. So if you live outside of New Zealand, you can use a time zone converter to find out when these aspects perfect in your part of the world. You'll need to ignore the ascendant, midheaven, and house placements unless you live in the same part of the world as me. But wherever you are, the planets will still be in these degrees and signs and in the same relationship with each other. When we have planets in dignity, this means that they are able to express their essential natures more easily. They are more able to be themselves. Mars is more martial when in Aries, for example. And in the absence of other influences, there's a greater chance of a constructive expression of the planets when in their own signs. Mercury is associated with our thoughts, perceptions, and communications, and sometimes the technologies that support those functions. Mercury is the messenger or the go-between. Mars is about our physical energy and our ability to assert ourselves and pursue our desires. He represents our personal will and sexual drive. And Saturn asks for maturity and discipline from us, and it values that which has been tested by time or achieved through hard work and effort. It can signify the aged and authority. It introduces structures and limits. Now, I use the traditional planetary rulership scheme in my astrology, which makes Saturn at home in both Capricorn and Aquarius, where it is now. So in the traditional scheme, each planet, with the exception of the luminaries, has 2 home signs. So what does this mean for you? Have a look at your own astrology and see which part of your life is being influenced by these planets in dignity. Look at which of your houses they transit. So Mars sextile Saturn on Tuesday. The courage of our convictions could be put into action with the supportive sextile between these well-positioned planets. Mars and Saturn are both dignified in their own signs, and although this is a bit of a gas pedal and brakes combination here, and in their own rights these planets are often considered challenging energies to manage, they are likely to find their more constructive expressions and lend each other a hand. Sun square Jupiter on Wednesday. The sun at 7 degrees of Cancer perfects a square with Jupiter in Aries. The brash, courageous, individualist action encouraged by Jupiter in Aries is at cross purposes with the emotionally sensitive, nurturing, family-oriented Sun in Cancer. There could be a challenge there, perhaps feelings of being torn between self and family, but one that could bring helpful personal adjustments. After all, Jupiter connects by aspect to Cancer, its sign of exaltation. So there is some reception there, and our generous Jupiter will be putting its best foot forward. New moon in Cancer a few hours later on Wednesday. The moon signifies our emotions, our nurturing function, home, family, and our need for emotional security. And when in her dark moon phase in conjunction with the Sun, she signifies a beginning or a seeding moment in the lunar cycle, the fruiting of which will be shown a couple of weeks later when the moon is full. The moon is in dignity in her home sign, so the feeling of feelings will be amplified. The square with Jupiter will feel challenging, urging courage and action when we would prefer to remain in a comfort zone. But remember that Jupiter has reception in Cancer, so any action taken on behalf of the family or home, for example, may prove beneficial. Jupiter is the greater benefic after all. Because it is in the overcoming position, action is more likely than inaction. Venus sextile Jupiter, also on Wednesday. The two benefics in a supportive sextile suggest that unpremeditated gestures of admiration or blurted words of appreciation could bring romantic returns, if for just a moment or two, until the next novelty piques our curiosity. This is a day to follow any instinct to express ourselves artistically. Mars square Pluto on Saturday. The two planets share themes of power and action, one in pursuit of its desires in everyday life, and the other slowly orchestrating an alchemical revolution of what we understand achievement and material success to be. This is a challenging, although potentially constructive couple of days. Pluto is in Mars' sign of exaltation, which through reception lends Mars notes of discipline and strategy, not ordinarily characteristic of him. Mercury trine Saturn on Saturday. These are two planets in dignity and in bonifying trine. It speaks of success in the social realms, with the best qualities of each supporting the other. Mercury in Gemini is a witty and captivating orator, whilst Saturn in Aquarius brings discipline, organization, and structures to tightly held ideals. So tightly held that we tout them as rights, not only for ourselves, but for all. This is a nice moment for anyone involved in science or science communication. I hope you enjoyed this and thank you for your time. If you like this and want some more, lend me some encouragement. Click that like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. This material only remains relevant for a very short time, so it needs your help to find its audience. Noho oro mai. Stay well. Goodbye for now.